My name's Simran Whitham. I'm the founder and CEO of the UK's biggest games industry nightlife event known as Format. Basically, imagine a rave for the games industry. I'm also the marketing exec at XR Games, who are one of the leading VR and augmented reality game studios in the whole across of the UK. And I'm also one of the former founder and director at Try Hard Interactive and former head of player engagement at Milky Tea Studios. The sort of interest is a bit of the cliche answer. I love video games at a young age, like I imagine a lot of people here do during a young age. I was always fascinated with the technology behind video games, like the ability to immerse us into an entertainment that film and music have just never been able to do. So I wanted to get into games and actually help build stories and build worlds that just been able to captivate us unlike any form of media there is. Very long time. So I was actually at college for 5 years before I went on to university. So I was actually in education for 8 years because when I was younger, game courses weren't very common or things to do with video games. So I always knew I wanted to work in games, but I didn't know what route to go down, whether I needed to study art courses, whether I needed to do IT. So I went and studied the broad range of spectrum of basically technical and creative courses that would basically benefit me when I went to apply. But I actually got rejected a lot along the journey. So I wanted to do animation at first. I got rejected for the courses at that. Then I wanted to go study actual game development courses at a lot of my dream colleges. I got denied those, but then eventually one tutor gave me a chance on it and then basically let me go study at the Manchester Openshaw campus, where I went to study game development there. So I started a 2-year long course then, and then I started my 3-year education journey at Futurewit School of Media here in Manchester. So I was in education for a very long time, building towards that. It's very good for helping you connect with fellow creatives. So the people around you now are going to be your peers in the future. So that's what I found university is a really good experience for, is to help build your social skills, help you gain a basis and a foundation for what it is that you want to do, and just be able to help you get a general plan of where you need to go. But then I found that it's up to you as the individual to basically pursue that outside of your university, because there's only so much the university can provide you. You need to, as an individual, go out and harness your own creative skills. Setting up your own studio, this will probably be the question I answer the most about, is it's a very rewarding but also difficult process. Like, I don't sugarcoat it. You're building a business, and as a business you're responsible for basically your own revenue. You're responsible for paying your own salary. You're responsible for making the product, especially if you're building games, because game development is very meticulous and very difficult. So my sort of advice when you're building a studio is that you need to find not only founders and directors who are going to found the business with you, but also sharing the long-term vision of the game studio and what it is that you actually want to do, and also establish what your core brand values are. Greg Hoffman, the former CFO of Nike, sums this up very well, is that if you don't understand what you are as a company, your company isn't going to last. So you need to understand what games you want to build, what brand it is that you actually want to be, and what the overall end goal is. Because as soon as you start those pillars, then you can start the journey. The journey is just, it will define who you are and it will define your brand. So you want that journey to be known as, it's going to be a difficult journey, like building your own game studio and any business, not just games. Building a business is a lot of hard work and it's a lot of late nights, especially when you're a director. But when you see the fruition of your projects, it is very much worth it. And with that comes growth. So it's a very rewarding experience. I'll start you off on one of the key ones I always say, and I know this might start off as a negative, but I promise it's positive. The first one I always tell all students that ask me this question is, don't build your dream game first when forming your indie studio, because you're going to make a lot of mistakes in game development. Game development is very difficult. It is extremely hard. And there are things that you will learn as you go along. Like when you build one thing in one place, it's going to break about 19 different things in another place. And when you start off with your dream project, it becomes a bit of a passion kill a little bit that I can find with people. Whereas you're going to want to learn things like how to properly launch your game on Steam. You're going to want to learn how to negotiate with PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo to get your game on those platforms. You're going to have to deal with the legal side of things, like lawyers' fees, who basically can protect copyright and trademark infringement for you. You're going to have to deal with HMRC for tax purposes and declare it as a product. And what it kind of does is over a long period of time is because we all have these ambitious games that we want to build. Like the Ottoman Empire was our dream game, but it became a 3-year long process because when we were students, we didn't understand just how much business side of things there are, how much legal side of things there are, and then you've just got the actual slog that is game development itself. So one thing I always tell people is just make a very short 3 to 4, maybe 5-month project at the most. Just learn the actual necessity of game development, whether you're building an Unreal, in Unity, or another different game engine. Learn how that engine works. Test little things that you'd like to maybe have in your dream project. See whether or not that's feasible for you as a team. And you also get that experience that you just wouldn't get. You're going to be launching little tiny projects on Steam, GOG, itch.io, that sort of thing. And it gives you that necessary experience that then you can take that into your dream project and then actually not fall into the pitfalls you would have fell into when making your dream project. Always chase your dreams. Don't ever not make your dream project. Just don't do it as your first project. So I want you all to imagine an online multiplayer split screen shooter, which is couch co-op and online multiplayer, where you play as otters in space with jetpacks, and it's called the Otterman Empire. Think Splatoon with jetpacks, with otters and split screen. And yes, the name was intentional. And I'll tell you where we got the name from. We were basically absolutely leathered at Crazy Pedro's in Manchester, and our creative director went, do you know what would be funny? Should we make a game about otters in space with jetpacks? That is literally what his exact words were. And I went, all right, that was it. And everyone was just in mutual agreement. And then it was born, the ultimate game. And we were the first ever game to do split screen multiplayer on Nintendo Switch. Even Splatoon didn't manage to do that one because we made it our mission to beat Splatoon before they got to it. It was a massive undertaking, and this is something that I tell people: when you're building a game, really analyze what people you're going to need along the way, because we started off with a big ambitious project, which was our dream project, and we learned along the way that, so one producer, one community director, one artist, and no programmer is not going to be able to make this game. Yeah, we didn't even have a programmer for the first 7 months. Trying to make a game without a programmer is like trying to run without legs. It ain't going to happen. It is just not. So really sit down and analyze what core people you need in order to make this team, because that was a huge thing that we did. The team grew over a lot of periods. So we ended up having something like 11 people working on the game. We had 3 audio engineers, 2 programmers, a bunch of contractors, a creative director, me doing the community management and marketing lead, as well as doing a lot of the business side of things, negotiating with platform holders. So we grew to that point. But if you can get those people in early from the initial journey, it's going to save you a lot of hassle of having to go out and find people, interview them, find people who want to be part of that journey. So just really make sure you get the key disciplines before you set off. This is something that game studios not tell you about, that launching your first game on these platforms is one of the biggest headaches that you will ever do. So I'll tell you this now: Steam are the easy ones, Xbox are the easy ones. It's Switch and PlayStation who make things very difficult, because this is another aspect of business development that you'll learn, is that you have to go through something that's called the certification process. So first and foremost, they decide whether or not your game's even good enough to go on the platform. So this is why when I tell people, when you think about what game it is, make sure that it's mature content or that it aligns with what these brands want on their platform, because brands are becoming more and more restrictive, and obviously very, as we've seen with Game Pass, very exclusive about what titles that they actually put onto the platform, unless you're Steam, they let anything on. But that's a different matter altogether. But what you'll need to do is actually go out, submit your application. So what you'll do is you'll build a very small vertical slice. So what I always say is make sure that vertical slice is like a form representation of what the game is. Just picture it as one complete or 1 to 2 complete levels, what the final game will look like. You'll then send that off to the platform holders. You generally have to pay a fee, which isn't often quite talked about. So you need to set money aside for that. So you'll have to pay a fee to just get it through that process, and then you'll basically be given a handler, which is like a personal agent, if you like, who'll work with you on, and you'll submit different builds and different demos to them, and then they'll review it and they'll tell you whether or not you've passed this thing called lot check. Lot check is the bane of every developer's life, which is basically if they find one wrong thing, they will basically send it back and say, no, you cannot launch your game yet. So but it can also be a blessing, really, because you don't want your game going out there, and these people are trained to spot things. Like, it can be things like wrong localization, i.e. subtitles, languages. It can be game-breaking bugs that they've found. Someone from PlayStation and Nintendo will play your games to make sure that it's good enough for the platform. So that is something I always tell people to be very wary of, is that as soon as start designing the game to be as multi-platform as possible, optimize it for the different platforms, because you might make the most amazing PC game and it will run absolutely terrible on PlayStation. Please always plan your projects for just thinking, how does this play on each platform? Like, is this a game that's built for PC? That's something you'll need to ask yourself. Like, do you even want to spend time on a PC version of the game? Because you might think that it might be the perfect console game. So for example, with the Otterman Empire, we designed the game for Nintendo Switch, but then it adapted over time for PC, and that actually set us back, because then we had to change a bunch of mechanics to make sure that it worked on PC. Because as the PC players and crowd will know, WASD isn't the same as, like, it doesn't, our brains don't register it the same as when you've got a controller in your hand, and you've just got to think about keyboard bindings, keyboard controls. And a lot of PC games play with controllers now, but you still have to think about the keyboard version of it. And there's just so many angles that you've got to consider when you're designing your game. So please bear that in mind. Like, when you start production of your title, make sure that you actually know what audience you want it to go for and what platforms you want to get it on. So I basically want you to imagine a rave for the games industry. So imagine AAA, AA, and indie developers across 3 whole floors of nightlife. I want you to imagine Master Chiefs, Spartans dancing and twerking on stage, stormtroopers mixing drinks behind the bars for you, the whole shebang, lights everywhere. You actually get to meet the developers behind your favorite games. And what we are is we're basically a nightlife movement for the games industry. I started it at 20 years old, business, whilst I was at university. Whilst I was actually basically in my first summer after my first year, I got a bit bored and I said, do you know what? Should I just host like a casual meetup, like, for a bunch of gamers? It was never meant to be what it is today. And about 150 people turned up to it, and we didn't do anything for it. We literally just threw some ads on Facebook and just saw who would turn up. And then we started to basically we did another event after that, and we got 200, then 250 turned up to the one after that. And then I started to invite local developers down to that sort of thing. And then it just grew and grew. Then we had the likes of Ubisoft and Sony wanting to come down and showcase Assassin's Creed, Forza, Shadow of the Colossus remake. They came and showcased that. We've had some massive brands come and showcase, and now we are the UK's biggest games industry nightlife event. My favorite quote of all time is, it's not what you know, it's who you know, because building your own network of contacts is super important in the games industry. You can be the most talented human being alive. If you don't know anyone or don't know how to advertise your work, you're not going to get very far, unless you're a programmer, because programmers get sought after like dust. But that generally, you need to go out and network with people, and that's why events are so crucial. You go out there, and it's a good source of inspiration as well. You can actually see what games people are working on, and then that might lead to business opportunities for you, whether you want to apply for a job with that studio, or if you run your own studio, you might be able to work on a collaboration with another studio, or get staff for your own studio events, or just as I say before, find jobs, or just generally interact with people within the industry. And everyone is super friendly at these events, like games. It can be very daunting. I understand that. I remember going to my first games industry event, and it's quite a daunting thing going up to a developer. But then you just find, and this is the best piece of advice I can give you, we're all just people. We were all like you at one point. We're all students. I still remember taking my first Unreal project to an industry event and showcasing it to developers. I've never forgotten that day. And we're all just people. Don't worry about approaching us. It's part of your personal journey, and that's growth, and that's super important, is that don't ever put yourself down in your work, because you're only going to get better. Like you're never as good as your first project. Like your first project is always going to be ideally your worst project, because it's your learning curve and it's your learning steps. And as you'll get better and better, you get better with every game. Like, I'm super proud of the Otterman Empire, but looking back at it now, there's certain design decisions that I know we could have done that were better. Same as all the other studios that I've worked at as well. Like, you always can think of ways to improve on your craft. So we're all learning. We're a creative industry by nature, and creatives are always learning to keep up with things. So yeah, don't ever put yourself down on your projects. Just keep getting better and honing on your craft, because there's always a lot more to learn, especially in a technological industry like the games industry, because the technology is changing all the time. a lot of potential at the moment. So memes aside, Mark Zuckerberg, metaverse, no legs, like get rid of all that, the sort of like initial rough patch that VR went through. VR is a very exciting opportunity because a lot of money is being pumped into it. I was literally just writing a paper about this very recently for XR Games, and the XR industry is due to earn somewhere around 7.1 billion in revenue in dollars over by the year 2029, which is going to be massive. A lot of companies are pumping money into VR because they believe in the next phase of what's coming in gaming, because VR is becoming more and more popular. At the moment, the biggest issue with it is hardware and cost. As we all know, that it can be quite expensive and the hardware isn't that accessible, but the experiences that you can have in it, it's just absolutely fantastic. The technology is being refined every single day. Like Meta Quest headsets now are absolutely fantastic. They're light, they're durable, and it makes that accessibility side of VR more and more interesting. And developers are popping up more and more and more, wanting to create these really immersive and frankly very, very good VR experiences. I'd never actually touched VR until last year, so this was a new area for me when I started, and I can honestly say without a doubt it is becoming one of the biggest avenues for this industry, and it's only going to get better and better because a lot of people are investing into it. I'd say my diverse background has helped me a lot because I've got so many different. The more experiences and the more roles that you have, the more contacts you're going to make, the more doors that you're going to be open, the more skill sets that you acquire. That means that you're going to make yourself a more valuable asset to people as you go into this industry. So if you're a really good artist, that's amazing. But if you're an artist and you can also become a tech artist as well, that makes you a more high valuable asset to a studio to want to invest in. Same with concept artists. Concept artists are great, but if you can do digital art, if you can do 3D art, if you can do loads of different things, then that will make you more highly valuable for a studio to want to hire, because studios are always looking for someone who can basically do multiple things and help pitch out with the other teams as well. So yeah, make sure that you've got as much like diversity in your background as possible, whether that's you've set up your own studio, whether or not that's, you've done work here, you do contract work, so you run your own game studio, but then you do 2 days a week of the studio, and because it'll open so many doors for you, because those experiences just make you more and more attractive to potential employers. So I'll give you 3 pieces of main advice for this, which is, first and foremost, go to as many events as you can and talk to as many people. I understand that, it's a lot easier said to do, especially if you're an introverted human being, to go out and talk to people. But imagine it as your kind of life's blood. You need to go out, network. I cannot stress the importance of networking enough. This is what I did at university, and I'm still doing it all the time, even today, because you need to build up a portfolio and a back catalogue of potential contacts that you'll have, because those contacts are just going to be invaluable to you to help you find work. You can message people, find out what's going on in the industry, who's hiring. So please go out and network. It's vitally important. And the second one I would say is also, please do as much work as you can outside of uni, because a lot of employers, we can tell the difference between a university portfolio and someone who's actually doing work outside of that sort of stuff. So if you put in your portfolio, oh, this is something I did for my university project, and this is what I did in my second and third year, but you don't have any work outside of that, we're immediately going to go, right, so they don't improve on the skill sets outside of university. So please do as much work as you can. There's a fantastic student I know at the moment here in Manchester. She's a phenomenal 2D artist. She's only in her first year, and she had raw talent. She's already been offered a job at Raw Fury while she's at university, because she's just absolutely phenomenal, because she constantly hones her craft outside of university. So do as much work as you can. And also the main thing is, have fun. Don't ever lose the passion for it. It's okay to take breaks, because game development is very difficult. Like it can be hard at times, and it can be a very difficult industry to break into, but it's also a very, very great industry. So just make sure you have fun with it along the way, and make sure that you always you work at a company that's in line with your intrinsic values on what it is that you want out of life, because life's too short to not do what you want to do. So just make sure you work towards what you want, and make sure that you're on the path that you want as a person. make sure that you understand the route that you want to go down. I see it a lot from students who, you know, they wander for a bit after uni and they might necessarily end up working a job that they don't like, and they can become a little bit trapped because they've not found themselves. And we're not meant to know who we are in life, but really try and understand what it is that you can explore different things, explore your passions, try and do as many different things as you can. Like if you fancy doing a bit of art, see if you like to do a bit of that. If you want to do a bit of programming, try different things and really use this time to understand who it is and what it is that you want to achieve, so that then you can work towards that. Because as I said earlier in the talk, as soon as your whole studio, if you were setting up a studio or any game studio, everyone needs to know what the end goal is. And that should be in case of your personal life as well, and what you want from a career standpoint. So make sure that you kind of understand what it is, or just have a general ballpark idea of what you want, and then just work towards that.